Once the Sirians got the idea to create a slave race who was not allowed to reach the stars, to keep them trapped they also had to create something which can be most easily described as a time lock. The human race who was already here, the Namlu, was multidimensional and could travel interdimensionally between the stars. This, of course, had to stop if your purpose was to enslave a race. Therefore, the Dark Lords reconstructed the natural grids around the planet to create this artificial time lock, which would keep their slave race from experiencing simultaneous time. They had to have them adjust to a straight, linear timeline. However, this is not easily done. Because we live in a multiverse where our thoughts and actions create new realities, and thus new timelines continuously, but the trick was to, in addition to create this artificial grid, make the slave race oblivious to whom they were and where they came from, plus the whole conception of time, timelines, and reality in general. This way, these master manipulators could manipulate people's thoughts and create their realities for them in a manner which was more in line with what the Sirians wanted us to believe in order to control us and our destiny. In addition, and in line with the above, the Sirians had to rearrange the DNA of the prototypes they were creating so that when a spirit entered the body, it was locked into the grid, both in a more lofty fashion but also through their manipulated bodies. Thus, the Dark Lords thought they had constructed the perfect trap. However, the grid, the artificial grid, here spelled with a capital G, was not at all perfect. It was meant to also block certain frequencies of light and prevent it from reaching the surface of the planet. Light carries information. This was done in order to keep humankind uninformed. But the grid was like a Swiss cheese, and pillars of light could penetrate, coming in from the sun and the cosmos in general, and now from the galactic center, as we are aligning. This didn't bother the Sirians too much, because even when the light was able to penetrate, the DNA was rearranged in such a way that the information went right through the human bodies without being absorbed, because there was no one there who knew how to receive it. But there was something else with the imperfect grid that the Sirian overlords were very concerned about. The grid could be used as an escape route after the person died. The Dark Lords did not want that to happen. They had invested a lot in this control system. So they wanted the same souls to incarnate over and over, just to be recycled into a new slave body here on Earth. Therefore, they invested a lot of time in figuring out how to prevent souls from escaping after death. The solution to the problem was a tunnel of light. When a human soul left her dead body, she was normally confused, because she had been kept ignorant and didn't know what to do and where to go. So, some souls stayed discarnate, hovering over Earth, while others attached themselves to another human body like an unquiet dead. And some escaped through the pillars of light, the holes in the Swiss cheese. None of this was what the Sirians wanted. So they created this tunnel of light, which was often connected with a warm, fuzzy feeling, and false images of dead relatives leading them towards the tunnel. More often than not there were also spirit guides there to greet them and meet them after they separated from their bodies, and sometimes it could also be a religious experience, with a Jesus figure waiting on the other end, or some other religious deity before Jesus' time. The whole purpose was to direct the deceased away from the holes in the grid and manipulate them into the trap. Once the spirit had agreed to enter the tunnel, they were sucked in with an enormous speed, almost like a cosmic vacuum cleaner, and entered the between-life area, where they met with their dead relatives and friends, or fragments of their souls, left in the afterlife to keep the new, ignorant spirit busy. The BLA was in fact just a relay station where the spirit was waiting for her next turn to be recycled. Here in the afterlife, the spirit could relax with friends for a while and experience some extraordinary things she could do with her avatar/light body. One of these things was she could manifest a whole reality for herself. She could create a house, out of the blue, a horse to ride on, almost whatever she wished to do. After a while, however, it was time to be recycled again. The Sirians and their helpers, residing in this dimension, and whose job it was to manage these, in-between, spirits, had to block the memories of their victims before they were shot back into a body. So the souls who were about to be recycled received some heavy-duty implants before they were ready for their next lives. They were put in a chair and were spun around, while bombarded with images in a rapid speed, telling them to obey their masters, and to forget about previous lives. Some of these implant stations were located on Mars, others in the Pyrenees. From there, the soul was then shot into a new body with all memories erased, and so it went on, life after life, up to this very day. Very little has changed. The only thing that apparently has changed over time is that some souls who have been heavily implanted over time, appear not to need the amnesia treatment anymore, and will automatically take a new body when one becomes available. They don't even have to go through the tunnel of light at all. So, one way to escape would be to disappear out through one of the holes in the grid, explore the universe from a soul level. You automatically become multi-D and inter-D once you have penetrated the grid and escaped, and join a civilization, or the beings on a planet you feel you would be happy residing on. This, of course, is a secret no one will tell you about, not even the best of the channeled entities, because they all want us to stay here and work it out from our Earth perspective. Those channeled entities, including the Pleiadians, have much invested in us and the living library, and want us to defeat the Sirian overlords from our 3D perspective by upgrading our DNA, raising our consciousness, and build a new Earth. Why do they want this? Because if we do, it will also change their future, which is where they come from, and hopefully stop their own tyranny under which they live. This pertain in particular to the Pleiadians, who could trace back the tyranny they lived under to decisions we made during the nanosecond, between 1987 to 2012, which has affected their own timeline negatively. Therefore, they tell us, they are here to help us make more ethical and pro-survival decisions and thus change our own future timeline, which will affect theirs. So, in other words, they are here to work out their own karma, which has to do with their own interference with humans and the Earth in their past, which would be our present and our past. For this to work, it requires that we stay here in our 3D bodies, raise our consciousness, and become multidimensional without technology, or with minimal technology, and that we claim our sovereignty as human beings. If this succeeds, the Sirians would have to leave, or play out their own karma in another version of Earth, where those who refuse to wake up will potentially spend the rest of their future together with their slave masters. They can of course anytime change their course, but it will be harder and harder the longer people wait. The nanosecond was a time window when the galactic center has been bombarding us with information carried on gamma rays and other frequencies of the higher electromagnetic spectrum. And we have had a chance in a million to upgrade ourselves. Still, be aware that there is a choice. We do have opportunities to leave this planet and go somewhere else, particularly when we experience body death, but we also have the option to stay here with our fellow humans and ride things out. Remain system busters and help raising the energies and regain the rights to this planet's. These are the same rights we, in conjunction with the original founders, once had, and as a result flesh the Sirians out, or have them integrate with our higher vibrations and forgive. If everybody who knows how to do it chooses to escape, the rest of humanity, who has been more heavily implanted and are not yet able to see the new dawn, will be doomed. No one will judge us if we escape, but it takes more courage, love and caring to stay and ride it out. Especially as I believe we can do it. Remember, once we've raised our consciousness we don't need to go through the tunnel towards the light anymore. We can come back with memories intact, no amnesia implants and continue our work, and mind you, we can, if things get ugly, escape at any time. But again, those who want to leave are absolutely free to do so. We don't have a contract to stay here. When the God spell is broken, it's by choice. There is no need to go into the tunnel of light. When you've heard this, you are at that point. The key to freedom is disobedience towards those who keep us in chains. Remember, they need to have our permission to enslave us, whether it's a conscious decision or not. Of course, we have to be smart about it and not just go and sit in the forest and think we're disobeying the Sirians. It's a process, and can only be done if we choose to stay for some lifetimes yet. Also, when I say we must forgive those who suppress us, it must stir up some controversy. Why forgive those who have murdered and slaughtered? Well, we must forgive those who decide to repent, because this also means we forgive ourselves. We are all in this together, and to leave a long era of tumult and chaos while still holding grudges against somebody is not going to make us happy. By this I don't mean we should turn a blind eye to what they are doing in present time, quite the opposite. We help where our help is asked for and needed, but spend most of our time developing ourselves to be able to inspire and lift others up so we can reach for the stars together.